to get to the right to die thing for the mentally ill, because this is what is like very controversial in Canada. Like, you do support some limits at, like, you know, like if like a trans person, you know, was like, I want to end my life because I feel like I'm not being accepted. Like, you don't think that the government should aid them in that? Like,
no. I am only talking about death with dignity. And the way it is in this country, in the states that I know, like in Washington and Oregon, not only does it have to be signed off on by like multiple doctors, and it is very expensive, by the way, which is another issue, but you have to be where you're terminal within, and it has to be within a certain amount of time. It can't just be, oh, you're dying over the next couple of years. It has to be like fairly acute, and it has to be signed off on by 2 doctors. But for me personally, it would be at the same time they're offering you hospice. So we're not talking about somebody who's really choosing to die. We're talking about someone who is choosing how they die.
Right.
And that's the difference.
I'm smiling because somebody put in the chat, what if they identify as dead? Which, you know, it just like right when you're saying this very serious thing. I don't disagree with that. I think as a part of end of life care, like, you know, that is a thing that should be available. What do you think about the youth in Asia being responsible for this? Should we like do something about them? Should we go over to Asia and confront the youth?
That's like violence in the media, right?
Yeah, you get.
Do you remember violence in the media? Violence.
You know, I think this is a great place to wind down the conversation because, you know, one of the big issues that we have on the left side of politics is we are not overwoke. Far from it. We believe that people have the rights that they should have. Trans people should be protected. There's a lot of things that go on in society that unfavorably target people because they are different. But it seems to me that because the liberals, and I'm sure you follow a lot of the big accounts on social media, you know, the Rob Reiners of the world, the Deborah Messings of the world, you know, you saw what Alyssa Milano did.
They're insufferable.
Alyssa Milano may be the most insufferable one of all.
Those are not our people.
You know, Alyssa Milano, you probably didn't see this.
I don't watch that nonsense.
Alyssa Milano made a statement today about how I'm not driving a Tesla anymore because Elon Musk is terrible. So I'm going to drive a Volkswagen, knowing full well that Volkswagen was conceived under the Third Reich. And it's like, you do not understand just how insufferable you are. And this was maybe the greatest ratio of all time. We're talking like what might be like 100,000 comments now at this point to basically tell this person to get effed. Like it's so
and
bad.
I hate Tesla, and I would never drive a Tesla.
I think you should test drive a Tesla. They're actually real. They're actually just test drive it. They're actually
I have.
They are wrong to me on so many levels. It's a personal preference. I'm not driving a Tesla. It's not happening.
You know what I hate about the Tesla, to get in on this issue, even though I do think it is the best electric car. And I've test driven it. It is fun. And I think my preconceived notions about electric vehicles were kind of blown away. But the vegan leather, I'm not into it. Like if you're going to charge $50,000 for a car, you have to have actual leather in it. Like, you know,
vegan leather. Well, okay. The Tesla thing for me is I actually have a hybrid. So my car is a plug-in hybrid. So I get a certain amount of mileage without gas as well. And I do like that. And I do like getting gas less frequently, and it's much more convenient and all that. But the idea of being pure electric to me in Florida is just not a good move. If I lived in California, fine, maybe. But the idea well, look, all I know is I tried to get out of here during one of the hurricanes, got stuck it took me 6 hours to get what should only take an hour and a half from here. Ended up having to come home. If I was in an electric car, I would have been screwed.
I actually think, so where I live, it would be very inconvenient. So I just drive like a fuel efficient car because you know, I don't want to pay for gas and all that. And I drove a small car because I live in New York City and I probably shouldn't even have a car, according to some people who are wrong. But yeah, there's charging stations all over the place. Like, and you could charge it at your home and all that. And I like, you know, I hate to be the person because one of my friends owns a Tesla. And whenever I visit Texas, he's always driving us. Nuance Bro, the YouTuber. And I always make fun of his Tesla because he's like one of those I love Elon Musk guys, right? So he deserves to be made fun of. But go look at videos of people driving through like the water with a Tesla. It's actually kind of wild what that thing can do because the engine doesn't drown. Now, I will say the battery reduces its ability to function when it gets cold. And what they define cold as is like regular New York weather. So they're like under 60 degrees, you start losing battery function, which, you know, is great if you live in California, Texas, Southern California, Texas, Florida, whatever. You don't really have to deal with that except for a few points out of the year. But like that's 90% of the year that I'm going to have reduced battery function. And I live in a building. So where am I going to charge the damn thing?
Yeah. Well, and Richie makes a good point in the chat, which is what we've said here a multitude of times. Until the grid is renewable energy, you're still plugging in. You're still plugging into the same grid.
Nuclear power. Are you guys on board?
Yes. We've covered this several times. I'm actually very open to all different things. I just want to do things based on science and reason. And so I am very open to a variety of proposals, but people that just rule it out of just irrational fear, we're not of that.
And this is one of the big issues that exists because I'm a supporter of AOC. I don't like it when she drifts into the whole culture war stuff because that always gets ugly. But when it comes to the issue of moving to a clean energy grid, she is spot on. Unfortunately, she's also very much in bed with the extreme left when they basically look at nuclear and think there is no way we can touch this. It's absolutely incorrect. You saw what just happened in Germany. They decided to pull back on nuclear, and now they've advanced coal all over again. It's like, if we're going to get off of coal and natural gas, nuclear has to be part of the solution.
We have to have.
We do not have enough right now to advance it past that point. We don't have fusion power, although that would be wonderful if we did. We need to be realistic about if we really have a decade to avoid a long-term catastrophe regarding sea level rise and other things, then nuclear has to be part of this conversation. I do not understand why people think that needs to be avoided, but to me, that is something, especially with Series 4 and the replenishment of nuclear waste, it really has to be a part of it now. If you want to combine solar, wind, geothermal,
it wouldn't be enough.
No,
not how we live. We live too hard.
Correct.
It also requires a backup for those kind of plants. Like, you know, that Michael Moore producer documentary was goofy in a lot of places when they were like, get rid of the humids. But the thing that they were right about is that part of the reason why a bunch of these companies are pushing the green agenda that you wouldn't expect is because natural gas plants often back up solar panels. So this is like Germany would expand solar panels, and in a year where the sun shined a little less, their carbon footprint would go up. And one of the craziest things I learned about nuclear power and the nation of Germany is that they shut down 4 nuclear plants, and they wiped out every single carbon gain that the nation had since the reunification of Germany. Because after reunification, they shut down some Soviet era carbon plants, and those were like, you know, doing that on its own, the coal plants, is going to reduce their carbon footprint to like such a point. But when they shut down the nuclear plants after that, every gain from that point was wiped out. And it's such a workable power source. France's grid is on it right now, today. Japan, before Fukushima, was on it. Right, again, modern countries. So like, we could have done it. We should have done it. And it's one of the things that Bill Clinton shut down. And definitely a huge problem, the nuclear playground being shut down.
Amen.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And this is a key issue, especially with anybody who tries to sell the Green New Deal and doesn't realize, and this is, again, the big problem with, you want to call it the fringe left, you call it whatever you want, but there is a rigidity within that movement where they absolutely refuse to move an inch. They do not want to give any credence to any idea that doesn't fall under this idea.
We're not with them.
You know, you can't, this idea that you can be completely uncompromising, that everything has to be exactly as you see it and no one is ever going to move even an inch on that issue. This is why AOC is so valuable, if she's willing to be realistic and also open to the possibilities, because she can corral a lot of those people and make them realize that this is a significant step that can be taken. And why she chooses to not just continue to engage in the culture war more than the economic war, and also when it comes to the fact that she's championed the Green New Deal, but is not even willing to listen to somebody like Michael Schellenberger, who's been on our program multiple times and has made it very clear that I'm for a clean energy grid, but nuclear has to be a part of this, and here's why. And he makes some really salient points about it, and I wish more people would see it that way.
I think it's if there are people who believe that climate change or global warming, whatever you want to call it, is the crisis, and the number one issue is the amount of carbon that we're pumping into the atmosphere. And like those people who believe that are, if they're educated on nuclear, are typically on the nuclear train, because it's one of the lowest carbon producing. It doesn't require a huge footprint. I mean, if we had it, the amount of people that die from respiratory illnesses from coal, us pumping that into the atmosphere every year, would go down significantly. But there's also people who think that climate change probably is a problem, but they think it's their excuse to rewrite the American bargain or rewrite the world bargain. So if you have something where you can have workable power today, that kind of is not in line with the agenda. You know, Rahm Emanuel has that quote, people overuse it. They make it more sinister than it actually is, because really every politician does it, where it's like, never let a good crisis go to waste. And to me, it's basically the people who wanted George W. Bush to go after the base in Afghanistan that allowed them to launch this attack, versus the people who are like, you know, we kind of always wanted to deal with Iraq. Like, so the anti-nuclear people to me are the people pushing the new Iraq war in this analogy, as compared to the people who wanted to go after the training facilities and blah, blah, blah in Afghanistan.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.